The football kickoff.
With Sky. Watch every single live Premier League game on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
Alright, it's 11:30 on a Friday, which means it's time for the football kickoff with Sky. All the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. That'll let you comment when we're live or indeed afterwards. And I'm delighted to say Keith Treacy and Phil Egan are with us. Keith, Big Sam, a blast from the past, back again.
Yeah, Sam's back. I don't know what to think of it. If the fixture list wasn't as bad as it is for Leeds, then I would give them half a chance, but I think even Big Sam will have his hands tied with this one. But one thing he will do, he'll get them motivated. He'll play percentage football. It won't be pretty, but I think they have a better chance than he did under Javi Garcia.
You understand exactly what people mean when they say percentage football, very specifically. So you played for Big Sam at Blackburn for a period of time, and sometimes you didn't always cross the ball to his liking. What happens?
No, there was a couple of times on a Friday it would be 11v11, the starting 11 against the spare shin pads, and I remember coming in off the left and I played the ball into Benny McCarthy's feet, and Benny controlled it and the whole session gets stopped. No, I don't want this. If you play that ball in there, if that ball gets caught, the percentages are they're going to do this and they're going to hurt us. So what I want you to do is clip it into the grass in behind. Percentages are we'll win a throw in, we'll get a set piece, we'll put the ball into the box. And look, it was very robotic, but he came in to keep Blackburn up that year. He did that, and I think he got a fairly big bonus for it as well at the time. So it's what he does. It's what he does. Like one of my friends said to me, would you like Big Sam or would you like Pep to keep you up at this time? There's only one person you call at this time, and it's Big Sam, isn't it?
Is it? Would Pep not be able to work his way around and be like, look, they've got a weakness at right back, we're just going to pummel the right back, we'll be grand?
But with the way Leeds are, with the defensive frailties Leeds have, I don't think Pep could go in there and change it in 4 games. I'm sure he could over the course of a season. He could get his philosophy in there. He could change things. But when you've got 4 games to go and you're rolling the dice,
so in this instance, you agree with Big Sam that he is as good, if not better, than.
Yeah, look, I think he's definitely on a level. I don't think, look, people will say Pep's way of football is better, but for what they do, for what Sam Allardyce does, it's at the other end of the table. But for what he does, keeping teams up, teams that aren't generally good enough to be in the league, he keeps them in the league, and that's what he does. That's his remit as a manager. He does that, and I tell you, would you prefer Pep to go into Leeds for 4 games?
I think I'd probably prefer Pep at this stage. I think that he'd be able to unleash something that.
There's only one man you call.
Is there? Okay. Well.
It's been a while, but if you think back to when he was the Bolton manager, and I can see what he was getting at with his talk at his press conference during the week. Analytics, he brought that stuff in with Bolton where it was about getting the extras, like the small little things that obviously make the big difference at the end of the season. Now, the problem is the game has moved on a lot, and I think we kind of saw that when he was West Brom manager, and it didn't go very well. They obviously got relegated, but I would agree that they have a better chance of staying up under Big Sam than they did under Gracia.
I think I agree with that too.
But that doesn't mean they're going to stay up.
Yeah.
Look, I know exactly what's going to happen. It's going to be percentage football, but what Phil is saying is right. The game has moved on, but the basics of the game are the same. You play the ball in the right area. You're playing Manchester City on Saturday. Manchester City will not nick the ball against Leeds in Leeds' own half, because Sam won't let that happen. The ball, when Manchester City get the ball or they nick the ball, it's going to be in their own half, so they're going to have 70-80 yards of the pitch to go and break Leeds down. Leeds won't give anybody anything anymore, but I have to say the fixture list is very, very tough, and the defensive players that Leeds have, I don't think can hold any other team out.
So their fixture list is away at Man City tomorrow at 3 o'clock, and then the following Saturday it is Newcastle at home, and then it's away at West Ham, and then it is Spurs on. That is the last day of the season. There's 4 games left. Yeah, Spurs on the last day of the season. Who knows what Spurs will be like? Who knows?
Even West Ham will hopefully be in Europe as well, so that might take one eye off. So maybe Leeds could get something there, but Newcastle and Man City.
Yeah, regardless of how West Ham do against Alkmaar, that's 2 extra games they have, and Moyes is pretty much sticking with his 11 now, because we've talked about this before. Those players that he's brought in haven't really done it for him, so he's gone back to basics. So maybe that's something. Like even Leeds tomorrow have had a bit of an extra rest. City will have one eye on the Real Madrid first leg, but they could even leave Haaland on the bench and they'd still.
Yeah, I expect them to leave Haaland on the bench, to be honest, or maybe they won't. They haven't done it that often, but I would certainly, if I'm Pep, there's only one thing that I want to win this season. Like, even if they blow the league from here, and win the Champions League, everybody would be like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
No, I think Manchester City will be a lot more ambitious than that. I think with the squad that they have, I know it's going to get tough. I know Arsenal are still pushing them, but with the squad they have, with the players they have on the bench, with the 17 or 18 players they can rotate, I think they should win both.
I do think they should win both. And I do think that they could easily rotate.
But I take your point. If it was one or the other, Manchester City would take the Champions League, but I think they should win both.
Anybody with the hint of a tweak, or anybody with any of the stats coming off of the blood work saying this guy, because any chance of injury in this game, I'm like, no thanks. Like, it's possible that everybody loses all the games for the rest of the season between now and the end. Everton and Forest are so bad.
Forest have Southampton still, and that's at the City ground, so that's, you kind of think that it would be unbelievable if Big Sam got his bonus for keeping Leeds in the Premier League
winning a game.
I don't think that can happen though.
The bonus is reportedly $2.5 million. This is going to be like one of the highest paid managers in world football over this period of time. It's up there with Pep.
It's huge though. If he keeps them up,
well,
there's already talk that Brendan Rodgers is going to be the next Leeds manager.
Right.
Whereas you think if they go to the Championship, I'm calling it now, they get somebody like Scott Parker. That's kind of like, that's the difference.
Yeah.
They could end up with a Scott Parker, bring us back up kind of thing.
So there's strong rumours that they're going to be bought out by the San Francisco 49ers as well, who have a decent track record of building and investing properly, and they like their hotshot young coaches, and Brendan Rodgers will be right up their street. But I wonder, does that takeover go through, or do they go, well, we could just buy someone else who's actually in the Premier League?
And that's why, like, if he does keep them up, I know people say that's a lot of money, but you know, it's small in comparison to what it would mean for the future.
If he does any of the actual work that gets them up, that's the thing. It's like, you know, if they do lose all the games and somehow Southampton beat Forest and everybody's like so bad that they somehow manage to stay up, that would be remarkable.
One thing that has come from his press conference today, I'm kind of sensing that he's going to drop Meslier.
Right.
He was asked about it. He said, that for me is probably the biggest decision I have to make today.
Right.
So he said he looks grand in training, but he said
confidence
pressure
shot.
on training. His confidence is completely shot. The backup is Joel Robles, who Everton fans will remember wasn't great, but he's starting at a point where if he comes in, his confidence isn't shot. Meslier just is making too many mistakes, and it seems anything he does wrong gets punished. If he drops a cross, it ends up in the back of the net, and I just wonder. He goes back to percentages you're talking about.
Yeah. I remember him. He really loved. Remember Paul Robinson. Robinson was our goalkeeper at Blackburn.
He's a set piece taker.
He was a set piece taker. That was one of Paul Robinson's big assets. Was that from about just outside our own 18-yard box, we'd win a free kick and we'd put all the big lads up, and Paul Robinson would just boom it into the box, and we play second balls from there. But like I said, it's very, very hard to score from your own 18-yard box.
Yeah.
So
how does he set up tomorrow against Manchester City, do you think? It's essentially park the bus.
It'll be park the bus. It'll be a 4-5-1, 4-4-2. It'll be something very, very basic, because he hasn't had a lot of time with the lads. He will try and protect Koch at the back, Christensen, not great defenders. Even Luke Ayling, he's not bad going forward, but defensively very, very questionable, a lot of them. So he will try and protect them with the wingers, with the two centre midfielders. And it will be a slog. They will play for set pieces. They will play with moments. I heard him speaking on Sky earlier, and he said, if we get a chance in the game. You know, not a lot of managers say if we get a chance, but look, he will also be saying
when we get chances. No, if we get a chance.
But he's a realist, you know, and he also said that if we do get half a chance, we have to hit the back of the net, and that's not something Leeds have been doing often. They haven't been keeping teams out. But look, I think if they get the bones, if they get a fighting loss against Manchester City, I think the Leeds fans could take that moving forward, and it gets a little bit easier against Newcastle, but not an awful lot. Yeah,
I was thinking that West Ham would probably be safe, but they won't be really. If teams do win games, let's assume that
they're still definitely in it. Yeah,
somebody somewhere starts to go on a bit of a run, which has been no sign of so far.
Yeah, well, West Ham are on 34 points, aren't they?
Yeah.
So I mean, they're still one. You think they'd need at least another win, and they've been playing okay. Even the City game the other night, they played well. But then City got the breakthrough, and that was that. And it was from a set piece. City score a lot from set pieces, but I suppose when you get plenty of set pieces, because you get fouled a lot because you have plenty of possession.
Yeah.
But when you look at the Ake goal, it's about 6 West Ham players around Haaland, and then there's 3 City players at the back post.
Yeah, it has an impact.
Yeah.
There's space somewhere. Right, I should actually run you through the fixes that we're going to do. Obviously, that was the 3 o'clock kickoff. Manchester City against Leeds. It's 3 o'clock It says here in Sky Sports.
It is, yeah. It's because of the coronation, yeah.
Ah, okay. All right.
We're all about
Coronation, also the Champions League as well.
Right.
Play a half-life.
They're using this opportunity to break the Saturday afternoon blackout.
Yeah,
Right.
the king has spoken.
So that is 3 o'clock on Sky Sports. Spurs versus Crystal Palace is 3 o'clock on Premier Sports. Liverpool versus Brentford, 5:30 on Sky Sports. On Sunday, Newcastle versus Arsenal, live comms with Stephen Doyle and Brian Kerr on that one. And then on Sunday evening,
Yeah.
West Ham versus Manchester United. What's going on?
And even on
7
Monday.
o'clock on BT Sport.
There's 3 games on Monday. There's a 3 o'clock game on Monday.
Can they get a king every week so we can have this? Or is that a once in a lifetime thing? I don't know.
I'm going to be home on Monday at 3 o'clock, and I could sit there and watch 3 games back to back.
Brilliant, isn't it? At 7 o'clock, the United game on Sunday.
Yeah.
Is it a bank holiday on Monday in England?
It would be, yeah.
Ah,
Yeah,
right,
they go after us, don't they?
There you go. You learn something new every day. Come to this show for the football stuff and you get some coronation wisdom dropped on you. Okay, so Man City against Leeds. We expect, notwithstanding the bus being parked and maybe a weakened Man City side, to still tear them apart.
Yeah.
Now, they were a bit easy-ozy. West Ham good, but also maybe they were just relaxed. They knew they could always up it a bit.
Yeah, West Ham pretty much approached the game as you would think Leeds will.
Yeah.
And you'd imagine West Ham are better at that than Leeds, and it still finished 3-0. So it's about not getting a hiding. They got beaten 7-0 there last season. So you can't, as Keith said
which
there.
Of the 5 managers that have come in between? Was that still Bielsa? Or
I think it still was Bielsa. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. We've gone from Bielsa to Big Sam in 14 months. That's the name of the documentary right there. From Bielsa to Big Sam. What went wrong at Leeds?
This time.
I don't know. Look, you said it, Phil, there a few minutes ago. Set pieces are a big part of the game, and look, and you've also said that if Manchester City have 1 or 2 little niggles, little knocks, just don't play them.
Yeah.
Sam would be lapping that up, thinking, don't play your big players. We'll kick the legs off the ones who are coming in, who aren't up to scratch. And he's going to make it hard. He's going to make it tough. It's going to be physical. Manchester City have an awful lot to play for. It's not going to be glamorous. Just drag them into the trenches and see what they do. See if they have to fight. That's all that Big Sam will want.
At the very end last season, Manchester City still needed to come from behind against Villa to win the league and wrap it up. As I've said this on air already this week, as a Villa fan, I never had any doubt at all that they were going to somehow manage to screw that situation up. So I never felt in any way excited or confident about it. And Steven Gerrard, blah blah blah. But they're not totally robots, this Man City team. They haven't been totally robots the whole way through. They've found sometimes big occasions. Maybe that's a little bit because Pep tells them what to do all the time. That they don't always think their way through these situations.
Yeah, look, Pep, it is a little bit methodical watching Manchester City. It's almost like a chess game. Players go in certain positions and it's all so well coached that you're thinking, where does the player take over here? But when you look at the likes of De Bruyne and when he gets on the half turn and the passes he plays, I'm sure Pep isn't saying, listen, play that through the eye of a needle, because people don't see that. Kevin De Bruyne sees that. So,
are you playing De Bruyne in this game?
Well, he's been out the last couple of games, so you're thinking you don't risk him.
No.
Surely not.
No.
You have him in cotton
enough.
wool to make
Still
sure that he's
enough.
playing at least the second leg.
Even regardless of who they play in there, whether even Foden came back in
I'm
and
sticking Foden straight in the team.
scored. I think Grealish is having a brilliant season,
Yeah.
especially the second half of the season.
Yeah.
If you didn't start Haaland, Alvarez is still quality. Look at the goal he scored against Fulham last weekend.
Maybe you start Haaland and take him off at half time with the job done. Maybe that's
after he scores a hat-trick, take him off.
Yeah. All right. So we're predicting a tight game. There will be a response from the team to Big Sam.
Yeah, there'll be something there. He'll put the bones of something in place. But like I said, I think that the opposition they're playing, I think if they were playing teams around them, I'd give them a much better chance. But they're playing top half teams, so I think it'll just be too much. But they could get lucky, maybe nobody will pick up a point, like we're saying.
Yeah, okay. Spurs versus Crystal Palace is next. Palace, obviously, the old crew of managers who've come out and just steadied the ship, and straight away everything got way better.
Yeah, no, I remember when they got rid of Vieira, I looked at the fixtures and they had 10 games to go, and 8 of those games were against teams below them.
Right.
So they were nice. Roy Hodgson deserves
Would
great
Vieira
credit.
have actually managed to...
We'll never know. But Roy Hodgson obviously has already got them to 40 points with 4 games to spare. And you'd imagine they'll build on that. And they'll fancy the chances against Spurs, especially the Spurs we've seen. Like Spurs, I was looking at their record. So 33 games, their last 33 games in all competitions, they've scored 12 first half goals. They've only been in ahead at half time on 5 occasions. And obviously they came back against United, almost came back against Liverpool, but they've been doing it all season, just poor first halves. So Palace are the kind of team as well, if you give them a lead, they'll just pick you off in the break. They've got some really good players in the break, obviously.
Do you actually think Palace are going to win this game? Was there not enough fight from Spurs from 3-0 down against Liverpool to...
Why are you fighting at 3-0 down?
I don't know, because they're the Spurs. It makes no sense.
I think, did you hear what Klopp said after the game? He says Spurs are too good just to be a counter-attacking team. They have to be more than just counter-attacking, and I think that's basically what Spurs are. I think they struggle to break teams down if teams are rigid and you stay with them, but more expansive teams that would go punch for punch with them, I think, will get beaten, or they'll get beaten by them. But Crystal Palace will be defensively really rigid. They'll play for parts, and Zaha, Eze, Elise will get them up the pitch, and I do fancy Crystal Palace. So I think, you know, the basics of defending with Spurs, I can talk about, yet they got back into the game, they came back at this point, they done that at that, but why wait? They start the game like that. If you start the game like that, they have half a chance to go on and win the game. But look, they're giving themselves too much of a mountain to climb, and it looks like a club without a manager. It looks like there's no fear whatsoever in the dressing room or going in at half time with these poor performances at St James's Park. They're just walking in. I think they need somebody there with a bit of fear, and like I say, the basics of defending, being compact when you don't have the ball, they're a million miles off it.
Despite being absolute pants for the last 2.5 months, essentially, they're only 9 points behind Manchester United in 4th place. If they'd hired an actual manager instead of this kind of, we're not sure, do we definitely know he's not our guy, but we don't know who the next guy is, and we're going to take months and months to find it, then they might have actually had Champions League football next season.
They were in a good place. They had 10 games to go with Stellini, and it was make or break. It was like, right, Conte has said all these things about you, prove him wrong. But they haven't. They've done exactly what he said they would do and have been doing.
Like, would Conte have got them better results than this? Was that, like, I realised that they were getting divorced in the summer, but until then, like, you know, let's just, for the sake of the kids, let's just stay together till the summer.
Well, look, I think you'd be more afraid going in when you're getting beaten 6-1 at St James's and Conte's in the dressing room waiting on you. I think there's a bit of fear, and you're thinking this won't happen again. And
at half time, like,
heads
they
are going to
roll.
roll. Do you know what I mean? But then they go and concede 4 at Anfield, and I know there's parts of that you like, but there's so many parts of it that you don't like. Defensively, they're just absolutely all over the shop. They really are. But
all right, so you're giving Palace a good shot at beating them.
Yeah, I would think Palace will beat them. Yeah.
All right, Liverpool versus Brentford at 5:30. Plucky Brentford, who again themselves could have been looking at European competition next season. They probably don't have a squad big enough for it at the moment, but again, they've caused trouble for Liverpool, right?
Yeah, they outplayed them in the home game in Brentford earlier in the season, and just pretty much did what many teams have done to Liverpool away from home, where they just always seem to have a flood of players attacking Liverpool, and Liverpool don't have enough numbers back, and there's still... that is still happening. Even obviously Spurs had plenty of chances last week against Fulham. Fulham created problems. Liverpool, you know, eked out a win. Like, 5 wins in a row. Now the only thing, the difference is in midfield they're starting to win tackles, and it's just the extra man in there, Trent Alexander-Arnold, who just looks completely revitalised. Even obviously he's everywhere. He's getting on the ball, but even out of possession, you know, you see him busting a gut to get back into defensive shape, and that change has definitely worked in his favour and Liverpool's favour. They're still light in midfield, and obviously we know they're going to invest. That's where most of the investment is going to come over the summer, that midfield. And
the McAllister links are getting stronger and stronger. And
yeah, well, I think any Liverpool fan watching the game last night would have been even more excited, because obviously, you know, they could have a new penalty taker, but he has this unbelievable knack of just being able to nick possession, and you know, he looks like quite a small player, but he's physical. And even there was a shot that he hit with his left foot in the second half last night, which good save from De Gea. Liverpool don't score enough goals from midfield. They don't have players that drive on and can smash one in from 30 yards out. Yeah, they need more of that, because
Liverpool fans will be happy with McAllister.
Oh, I think so, yeah. Right. I mean, even Brighton have beaten Liverpool a couple of times this season in the Cup and in the League, and there was a 3-3 draw at Anfield. Liverpool fans would have seen enough in the likes of Caicedo and
how much
McAllister.
Is McAllister?
They're probably talking about 60 million, I think.
Are they?
And what's he got left on his contract?
I don't know actually.
That'll be the big one. But for a World Cup winner, yeah, I think he's a great player. I think he'd be a great fit for Liverpool. He has that little bit of guile, loads of class, plays on the half turn. Very, very good defensively. I don't think he gets enough credit for how good he is defensively. And he has that one thing that I think every top player has, especially the attacking players. He has a little bit of nastiness in him as well.
Saw that last night, yeah.
Yeah, where he'll actually leave the stud in. And I like that with players, because so many times you can intimidate an attacking player, you can get on top of him physically and they shy away, but not McAllister. I really love that about him.
Transfer Market says his current market value is 40 million, which you'd bite your hand off to get that.
You're not getting that.
When you consider the price for Jude Bellingham is 3 times that probably. So we shall see. Okay, I couldn't find exactly the details on his contract there. But Liverpool are going to beat Brentford at home. Their home record is good. Their home form hasn't been great. You'd have to say it's been like wild.
Yeah, they're getting the wins, but the only thing is, I don't think they can play as bad as they did against Fulham the other night. They started with Diaz, Nunez and Salah. Nunez played through the middle and just had a shocker. But Liverpool, their final ball all night was awful. But Trent Alexander-Arnold was probably their best outfield player. Alisson will definitely go down as their player of the season, which kind of tells you everything you need to know about Liverpool's season. But yeah, he'll make a few changes. Robertson was left on the bench. He'll probably start. I think Gakpo will probably come back in. So Brentford are the kind of team, though, like they're not going to give it to you easy. You're going to have to break them down. So if Liverpool don't play well, they don't win.
It says Spotrac says he's got 2 years left after this season on his deal, so that's why the price is going to be whatever it is.
100 million plus then if he has 2 years left. But to go back to Liverpool and Brentford, I actually fancy Brentford. I think Brentford will win the game. I know Liverpool on a great, they're winning games, they're getting over the line, but like when I look at the West Ham game, they won that 2-1. I think they were quite lucky. I think West Ham could have had a penalty in that. When you look at the Spurs game, if Lucas Moura controls that or just kicks it down the pitch, they don't get that win there. And the Fulham one, they weren't great against Fulham either. No. So it's less than convincing for me, but they are just getting over the line. They're just winning games, but I think Brentford will physically match them. Their output might even be better, and I don't think they'll be intimidated by the Anfield crowd.
When you're in a changing room and you're winning those games where you're absolutely poxed to win it, are you thinking we're immortal, or you're like, oh, what, like?
I think it depends what type of character you are. If you sometimes realists will come in and go, lads, we were lucky there, we need to buckle down, but there will be people who are away with the fairies and think, we won the game, who cares, let's just move on. But you know, as long as they're winning, I don't think they'll be flagged up too much. But I'm starting to scratch it and I'm analysing it, and like I say, I think they've been lucky in 1 or 2. Even the Forest one at home, Forest scored 2 goals at Anfield, which I know Liverpool won the game, so nobody really cares, but Forest scored 2 goals. That's not good enough.
Without even trying, it was almost like Forest weren't even trying to score goals that day, and they still scored 2. And one thing that they did that day was they were a threat from long throws and set pieces, and that is bread and butter for Brentford. But Brentford are, sometimes, I mean, they are the only team to win away to City this season in the league. They can do things like that, but then some days they turn up, they're very ordinary.
Yeah, some days it's 4-0 45 minutes into the game and you're like, well, that's kind of what we expected from this Brentford team. But they've been brilliant so far in their time in the Premier League.
I thought they'd struggle this season, second season syndrome, but they've been brilliant.
No sign of it. They're now properly established, and you do hope that the manager stays and that whatever suspension is imminent for their star players, not too long, doesn't derail them. Newcastle against Arsenal 4:30 on Sunday. This game is on Sky Sports. There's also live commentary on Off the Wall on Sunday with Stephen Doyle and Brian Kerr on duty for that one. This is really interesting, right? Like, just to see exactly where Newcastle are, to see exactly where Arsenal are at the moment. Maybe less important for this season and more important for next season, assuming, of course, that Man City win the league.
Yeah, well, I don't think. I think it's a great game. I think, like you said, I don't think there's an awful lot on the line. I think Arsenal will finish second. They obviously won't be caught. I think Newcastle will finish third. I think they'll stay away from Manchester United. And as an Arsenal fan, I'm fearful. I'm very, very fearful going into this game. Having seen what they do to people at St James's, especially Spurs, they played well against Everton as well, and then beat Southampton 3-1 convincingly. So Newcastle defensively brilliant. Schär, Botman and Dan Bourne excellent. Trippier gives you an assist and can defend properly as well. Gamardes in the middle has been excellent, and the boys up front just keep ticking up these numbers. Almiron's got better, Joe Linton, really, really good stuff. So I'm fearful. I think if Arsenal can get through the first 20-25 minutes and it be 0-0 or maybe even 1-0 to Newcastle, I fancy Arsenal to go and get something, but the first 25 minutes would be crucial. They'll have to start like a house on fire, and I just don't want to see Arsenal having kick-outs in 5 minutes on the clock, Arsenal having a kick-out and forcing the play. If Newcastle's press is good, give them the kudos. Say, yeah, your press is good, just go and clip her over the channel and say, if you're going to score, make it difficult. Don't do what Spurs did. Please don't do what Spurs did there.
Can an Arteta team or a Pep team, can they do that?
A Pep team can't.
Right.
No, but Pep has the players that he can demand that they play under that sort of pressure. Arsenal do have that, but it's a sticky period, and for the first 15, 20 minutes, the press is going to be 100%. It's going to be, St James is going to be bouncing. Disconnect the fans. They don't want to see balls in behind. They don't want to see Kieran Trippier throwing in the ball 90 yards away from his goal and it all being hustle and jostle up that end of the pitch. Don't give them anything. Make it really horrible. Tie your bootlace. Get the keeper to go down. All that sort of horrible stuff.
Are those
Kill
conversations had? Like, is that it? Because that's. It feels almost like that's too nitty gritty. Like that. Arteta's all about the detail of like your hip positions and your exact spot on the field of play, as opposed to the emotional stuff of quietening the crowd.
I think you're right. I think for whatever reason, managers take it as a given that players will do this these days. But it's one of these things that when I was playing, it was massive in the game, especially with the bigger clubs that were playing in Europe, and they were relentless. They would go down, they would kill the game at moments when they were getting tired to get their 30 seconds, a minute and a half rest, whatever it was.
And that was spoken about.
We all knew
coached.
It was coached. Even now, well, I'm sure Sam Allardyce will say it to the Leeds players when he's running around against Manchester City and he's tired. Don't be afraid to go down, take his time, chill out. Disconnect Manchester City, make them think they don't want to be here and get the crowd disconnected as well. So look, it's not nice, but when you go to these places, I don't want Arsenal to just sit there and go, it's Newcastle, we should beat them. Give them a bit of respect. It's in St James's, they're going to be 100%. Do what they don't want you to do for the first 20 minutes. Get them running towards their own goal, then play your way into it and see where you go from there. But the first 20 minutes of this one is going to be absolutely massive.
Yeah, and think back to the game at the Emirates. Newcastle did that to Arsenal. They frustrated them. There was a nice bit of needle to it. And just listening to Xhaka in the build-up to this game, he described this game last season. This is the one where we kind of knew after this that was Arsenal done for their Champions League place. And in his words, Newcastle destroyed us that night, is what he said. Right. So I think Arteta has a couple of big calls to make. He obviously took Thomas Partey out for the Chelsea game. Does he stick with Jorginho? Partey was awful against Manchester City, so bad I don't think he's fit, and De Bruyne was just going by him way too easy. So there's that. What does he do in attack? Does he start Trossard? But again, Newcastle are going to turn up thinking this is it. But I actually think if Arsenal could win this game, I still think City are going to win the league, and obviously they're going to probably be further ahead of Arsenal by the time this game kicks off on Sunday. But if Arsenal could win this game, they're definitely, I think there's still an outside chance they win the league, because City are then getting into those Real Madrid games. That's Arsenal's toughest game out of the way. This is the one, even when Arsenal were ahead of City and it was in their own hands, this was the game I was looking at, apart from the City game, where I thought this is make or break for Arsenal. So we know they're guaranteed to finish second.
Yeah. City actually finished the season with 2 away games, and so their fixture list in the league for Manchester City for the rest of the season is the Leeds United game that we've spoken about, Big Sam, that's tomorrow, and then it's Real Madrid, and then it's away at Everton, and then it is at home to Real Madrid, and then it's at home for Chelsea, which we could still have Frank Lampard on the worst run in the history of football, which would be amazing, and then they're away at Brighton, and then they're away at Brentford.
And we saw how Brighton played last night, and obviously played last weekend. Brighton, on their day, are an exceptional team, and they create chances, and if those chances go in, then City are in trouble. And even that game away to Everton, like, that's been a sticky enough game for City the last couple of seasons, where they've eked out wins, but like Everton are fighting for their lives. So I just think if Arsenal, I don't know, sitting here now, I'd be calling it almost 70-30 for Newcastle. But if Arsenal could actually come out with a win, then I think they're right back in it.
I think fair enough. And look, if Leeds somehow manage to do something against Man City, then all bets are off. But from Arsenal's perspective for next season as well, if they're going to stick at it, if they're not going to fall away at the end of this year, if they're going to follow through and make sure that Man City have to do all the things that they're supposed to do, the way Liverpool did. Like, Liverpool always pushed them, even when it looked like it was inevitable that Man City were going to win. Liverpool always pushed them.
Bring them to the last day, make them do it.
Yeah.
Make them see it out.
Yeah, like, that would be very important, I think, from Arsenal's perspective, because otherwise it's a swoon, and like, all we did was we beat Chelsea, but sure, everybody beats Chelsea, and you know.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm sure Mikel Arteta, they're far outweighing everybody. I know nobody wants to hear this because Arsenal have ended up in a race and they're thinking, oh yeah, they're in a race, like, you should be disappointed if you don't win it now. I'm really not. I have to be honest, I'm not disappointed how we are. We're second in the league. You're trying to convince me that it's still going. I think Manchester City will just keep winning. I think there's very little chinks in their armour at the minute, and like I say, with the 6 or 7 they can rotate. I just think they're way too strong, and like I say, I'm very, very fearful about this game on Sunday. I think Newcastle are excellent, and we have to mention Eddie Howe's first full season in charge. Looks like he's going to get Champions League football. It's amazing stuff, it really is.
What do you think Arsenal will be like next season?
It's hard to say. It's all about the signings, because like I said, the 11 we have with Trossard, if he doesn't start, we've 1 or 2 on the bench, and Ketia looks like he could be decent. If we can keep Jesus fit as well, we need a couple of signings. We need probably a centre half for cover, another centre midfielder. We're a couple of players away, and if we have Champions League football next season, it's going to be very, very difficult to compete on both fronts. You've seen how we fell away in Europe in the lesser competition, so we need to invest really, really well. But who wants to come to Arsenal to sit on the bench until Europe rolls around, or be a bit part player? So it's going to be a very difficult mission, but Adil and the lads in the background have done really well getting players in, so I'm assuming they will do their work again and we'll get some diamonds and unearth a couple more. But it's all about the signings in the off season.
They're at a difficult situation with signings because, as you say, if you come in, you're going to have to be really genuinely class to get somebody out of the team. And yet the players who are in the team, some of them are very good, but we don't know if it doesn't look like Odegaard is at the De Bruyne level. He looks very good. Yeah,
there's going to be an element of risk to every transfer, isn't there? Because if they're established, they're not going to come to want to sit on the bench. So there's going to be an element of risk. I get there. It's a funny transfer market Arsenal will be in.
Because like Trossard is at a level where he's very good, but is he actually so good that he's going to get in the team? And look, he was cheap, so that makes sense. And Jorginho was cheap, so that makes sense. But I'm not sure that they're massive upgrades on the players. So all you're doing is filling out with a middle tier of players a squad that's good but not great. And you actually need greatness if you're going to compete on 2 fronts.
Yeah, especially against City.
Yeah, look, like I said, it's going to be very, very difficult. There's nobody really springing to mind, because anybody you think in and around Europe in the top leagues will want to go straight into that Arsenal team. And I could have a debate here for every individual Arsenal player in the starting 11 for being player of the season in that position. So it's going to be very difficult to attract people. I think there's going to be elements of risk, but more often than not, they've got it right with the transfers over the last year or so, 2 years maybe.
They keep getting Declan Rice. So he goes straight in the team and he replaces Granit Xhaka, or he replaces Partey and they get rid of Partey.
Yeah, maybe Xhaka. I don't like Xhaka. I think he's brilliant going forward. He's excellent, but there's little things in the game, like when he goes head to head with Trent Alexander-Arnold against Liverpool, you're thinking, don't get the crowd involved. What are you doing? Leave them disconnected. It's just silly little things like that he could be better at. But I wouldn't bring Declan Rice in as you're going to start. I'd be like, everybody's on a level playing field pre-season. Whoever impresses me the most is going to get the short. So it'd literally be dog eat dog, and I would create an awful lot of competition within the middle. But the likes of Jorginho, those likes of boys are decent signings to get you over the line in the Premier League this season. But in terms of moving forward, the DNA of the club, the structure of the club, it's going to be very tricky. It
is tricky because the 2 signings that revolutionised Liverpool, they were world class players and you had to pay world class fees for them. So that's the market that is going to transform Arsenal. Like, it was okay last year getting Zinchenko and Jesus, but you can't just keep signing players. They need to find a Mo Salah, and maybe Bukayo Saka is that.
But the reason we got Zinchenko and Jesus is because they knew Arteta from the Manchester City days, and the players wanted that move. I don't think there'd be a lot of players within Europe that would say, yeah, I'll go to Arsenal and Arteta if they didn't know him.
Yeah.
Because even those 2 signings were a little bit off the cuff. It just so happened to fall well. So I don't know, maybe we could raid Manchester City's reserves again.
You know what? I mean, there's pretty impressive sometimes. All right, the last game we need to talk about is West Ham against Manchester United. 7 o'clock on Sunday evening on BT Sport. So Man United, they're having a bit of their own little mini swoon themselves. Got away with it against Villa a bit. I mean,
Well, if
They were terrible against Brighton, or maybe Brighton was just very good.
I think Brighton were very good, especially in the second half. And look, United would say they could have scored within a few minutes when Anthony had the chance. Marcus Rashford had a few chances as well. Brighton created plenty of chances, but I think United's home form will get them over the line. And they've got Fulham on the last day of the season. That would be the insurance. If they were taken to the last day of the season, they'd be fine. But the concern obviously is that last night's defeat means the top 9 that they played, they picked up 1 point away from home, and that was against Spurs. They lost to the other 7, and they lost badly in some of those games. So that's the job that Ten Hag has in his hands. That first thing he had to do was turn Old Trafford into a fortress. He's done that. They've taken the scalps of all the big teams around them. Now it's trying to turn that around away from home. But look, these things take time, and there's just a few little things that you've noticed. Like even he decided not to play Eriksen last night, and Eriksen, as good a signing as he's been, but against those quality teams, especially with a midfield like Brighton where they absolutely zip it around you, Eriksen, I thought he had a really poor FA Cup semi-final, which was obviously against Brighton as well. So they definitely need more reinforcements in midfield. There's only so much Casemiro can do, and actually I've found as the season has gone on, the more ground that he's had to cover, the bigger the struggle for him. Even last night, now there could have been an argument for him to get a second yellow card, but he needs better players in there around him as well.
Yeah, and Luke Shaw could have got a second yellow.
Yeah, I thought Shaw should have been sent off, and it wasn't even picked up when he went tight to somebody in the middle of the pitch. I'm not sure if it's Matoma, but somebody rolls him, he gets a pretty standard yellow card, no problem with that. But then when he gives away the penalty,
I think he got the yellow card from Mountain actually, because
even then
it looked like he hadn't touched him, and it was the kids, the 17, 18-year-old from South America who dived, basically. It was like, you killed him in the face.
Yeah.
And then he's screaming at the referee, and the referee, shut up.
In CISO, yeah.
There was like a little clothesline, wasn't it? But there wasn't a lot in it. Yeah, I remember it. But then the penalty, he's jumped with his hand fully extended in the air, clipped it off the Brighton player's head, and everything's all right. It's as intentional a handball as I've ever seen, yet the ref has just let it go. And look, it means nothing because Brighton scored the penalty, the game was over, it's all right. But I just something I noticed, I couldn't believe it. But
it means a fair bit. You might have to have some Harry Maguire action over the last few games of the season if he had the red card. But if you're a manager, do you forgive that afterwards, or are you like, what are you doing?
There's certain times you can't forgive it. If that's an in-swinging ball and Shaw's tracking backwards and there's somebody's behind him about to head it into the back, you say fair enough, he's done it, he's saving a goal. But it's an out-swinging ball. It's on the penalty spot. It's going to have to be a world-class header to score from there.
Yeah.
It seemed a little bit needless for me. And look, I think United they're on the way down this season. I think they're trying to motivate these group of players for a race and third in the league is just not. They're not interested in it really.
Well, they've played a lot of games as well.
Yeah, well, I think Torre. Look at that defence they played last night. Dalot left back, Shaw, Lindelof, and Wan-Bissaka. Like the individual, they're all decent players, but that as a back four, that's not an elite club in England as a back four. It really isn't. And look, I think I said it before. There's a couple of better teams than them in the Premier League this season. Even Rashford's dive last night, I was so disappointed with that dive. Like he's running there, you're thinking he's 1v1 and a tiny bit of contact with the arms, and he just didn't seem to have the fight or the physical presence just to keep it in. And just really disappointed with a lot of United players last night. It looked a little bit fakey, but look, again, don't want to be too critical because under Ten Hag they've come on leaps and bounds. Champions League football is the aim for them, and it looks like they'll get that.
And they have a trophy and another potential one. Like the thing is, you talk about motivation, they will be motivated for that FA Cup final. So if they finish in the top 4 League Cup, and if they come away with the FA Cup, then that's an unbelievable season for Ten Hag. When you think of the improvements that still have to be made, there's so much improvement that has to be made, yet they finish top 4 and end up with 2 trophies.
Yeah, I guess it's a real mixed bag with Manchester United. You're feeling that the manager is really on it, and he's managed to get really good performances from some players, but that some of those players who's getting really good performances from, this is as good as it's ever going to get, and that's never going to be good enough to get close to competing. So they need massive amounts of remedial. Like the squad needs to rotate really quickly now over the next 18 months.
Yeah, look, there's a couple of players they need in. The first one for me, De Gea, there's question marks over him in goal. I'm not sure what Erik Ten Hag thinks, but the first part of the call for me is Wan-Bissaka. Brilliant 1v1 defender, but if you're going to be a footballing team like Eric Ten Hag wants to be with United, playing the ball out to Wan-Bissaka, heart in your mouth.
Can you not just stick him in centre back? Would he not be really good as a centre back?
I think he's
good
not clever enough.
Positionally, he just seems to switch off.
And can you not
because
train
he knows
that?
He's so good at recovery that he seems to just think, away you go. But even when you look across the line, sometimes, and the three are there, and Wan-Bissaka is hanging back, playing everyone on, because he honestly sometimes just switches off. But again, I don't like. I think he did really well on Matoma again last night, as he did in the cup semi-final.
This is we talk about Trent Alexander-Arnold being brilliant going forward but can't really defend. He's the absolute opposite.
Yeah. I do wonder, is there, like, there's a value in having that in your team, because you know that you can negate something on the opposition. And I'm not sure if Ten Hag is ever going to be one of those managers who goes out to nobble the opposition's best player and take them out of the game. There's still room for that in the game. But then you go through the rest of the team, and like, Varane is great when he's fit, but he's only fit for 55 to 60% of every season ever. So you know that you're going to have a replacement for them. And then all of a sudden, the rest of the centre backs are an issue, and it's like, okay, all the full backs are an issue. Casemiro's good, but can he play 70 games next season? Probably can't. It's not fair. And then, all right, okay, so Rashford's good, and then okay, Anthony, I think they can get something out of, but like, they still need 5 or 6 players.
Yeah, but this is the time it takes, and I think, because it went so well up until about 2 months ago, and then they started to hit a wall almost. But you kind of have to just, perspective on this is that his first season, when you weigh it up, and you consider as well how they started the season.
Exactly.
The 2 defeats. And
the other unknown is the ownership going to change? And if it doesn't, well, then maybe this is as good as it gets, competing for a place in the Champions League and trying to win a trophy, but never competing for the actual league title.
Yeah, but I mean, things can change so quickly. We don't know what's going to happen with Manchester City in terms of the off-field stuff, the charges against them, and I said, up until a couple of months ago, things were looking pretty good for United, but the lack of squad depth just let them down. And I mean, we're talking about Arsenal's squad depth as well. That's where City are head and shoulders above everyone. That if you're going to beat City, you basically need like your first 11 to pretty much stay injury free for the whole season, and then you have a chance. And even that might not be enough. But I think United obviously could do with another centre half, another 2 midfielders, and they need a striker. But like that's 4 players, but that would make a huge difference.
I think the goalkeeper is an issue for if you want to play what Ten Hag. It seems if Ten Hag is true to who he was before, he wants his goalkeeper to be more involved, and that's not what you're going to get with De Gea. So
yeah, there's just a couple of people you don't trust on the ball. De Gea can be good, he can be bad. Wan-Bissaka, Maguire, Lindelof as well can be touch and go on the ball. So look, if you want to play out from the back, the bones of your back straight away, you need to replace them. Look, Varane's not bad on the ball, but like you said, he's probably 50% fit at the time. So yeah, there's going to be a big shake by United. But like I say, probably overachieving this season. So Eric Ten Hag, he's done well, although they've tailed off towards the end. It's been a decent season, and qualifying
for the Champions League will give them extra resources and still be that draw. So it's not all bad. The manager, he knows what he's doing. It's clear that he's very good. So okay, West Ham versus Manchester United, 7 o'clock on Monday night. Man United win. West Ham draw.
West Ham have been playing well recently. Like we mentioned the City game, and they ended up losing 3-0. But they were unlucky to lose to Liverpool. They obviously got the draw against Arsenal. But Michail Antonio has been key to that. He's back to the player that he was. When West Ham were going well. So they're still. You would worry about them defensively, but they definitely are carrying more of a threat in attack. So it's one of those, if United are wasteful like they have been the last couple of games away from home, they could get stung. But you feel that just one away win for United will wrap it all up.
Keith?
I think it'll be a draw.
Right.
I think both teams will settle for the draw. Both have bigger things to play for. Obviously West Ham are still fighting for their lives, but I think they'll be okay. I think the players probably think they're going to be okay just because the people
everybody
below
else
them are
crap.
not good enough. Yeah, nobody's going to catch them. But like you say, Manchester United have a final to play. West Ham still in Europe, so I think they'll battle out a draw.
All right, good stuff. That is this week's episode of the Football Kickoff with Sky. All the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. My thanks to Keith Treacy and Phil Egan. We'll see you next week.
The Football Kickoff
with Sky. Watch every single live Premier League game on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.